Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the January 26, 2021 Public Board Meeting to order. Everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
To the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mrs. Burns, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Mr. Parentano,
Present.
Mr. Allen,
Present.
Mrs. Bowman,
Here.
Ms. Boyle,
Here.
Mrs. Hallenbach,
Present.
Mr. Kovitz is absent with prior notice, Mr. Marrington,
Here.
Mr. Cirillo,
Here.
and Mr. Sullivan.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Excuse me. Thank you. Prior to this meeting, the board met in executive session this evening to discuss matters of employment, issues related to labor relations, the purchase and lease of real property, matters related to litigation, and matters related to school safety and security. Mrs. Burns, are there any announcements?
No announcements.
Dr. McGee, Superintendent's report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Parentano. Though you may have forgotten, this month is School Board Director Appreciation Month. And I said last meeting I'd wait until the end of the month to elaborate on my words from the last meeting. I'd just like to express sincere thank you to our school board directors and our past directors. It is, I don't know that the public knows, it's a voluntary job that one has to get elected to do. Oftentimes I'll get emails saying these people aren't deserving of their salary, thinking that you're paid for this. You are not. They are volunteers. It's a very difficult job. And those who've been on the board for a while and those who in the past have been on the board understand the importance of a well-led and well-functioning board. It's one of the few instances where taxpayers can talk directly to those who tax them. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it is the case. And then with all that responsibility, we run into the pandemic. And you're put on that spot as well. So when I can honestly say that this board here and boards in the past are the reason Neshaminy has been successful through these very, very difficult times. You have worked as a group with the administration over the last almost year. While we were in the pandemic, whether it be myself or Mr. Jones, and previous boards have left this district in a financial position to cover things for a rainy day, which we are definitely in. So thank you, and I hope you enjoy your last couple of days of School Board Director Appreciation Month. Mr. Parentano, now I'd like to talk about the status of our academic models. The big picture, as you know, our elementary, the choices for parents are virtual, live streaming, or asynchronous. Or the students can come to school Monday through Friday with synchronous Zoom on Friday. At the middle and high school level, we're in the hybrid mode where students come to school 2 days a week. The other 3 days are done in a synchronous streaming mode. Presently, as of our most recent report, approximately 1 out of 5 students and their parents at the elementary level choose to do the virtual learning. Elementary, 80% of them are choosing to come in, and the number of students choosing to come in instead of virtual continuously decreases. We are still up a little bit from when we moved from hybrid to all-in on November 30th, but that number continues to approach the quantity prior to that move. At the middle school level, approximately 1 in 4 choose to do the virtual learning. And at the high school level, we are at 44% who choose to do the virtual learning, approaching 50%. Interestingly, for the first week since Thanksgiving, that number has come down just a bit. As far as attendance for those who are supposed to be in school, our elementary attendance absent is running in the single digits. That's probably not too far off from your normal January, February cold and flu season attendance. Our middle school attendance is running in the high teens, a little higher than a normal year. And again, unfortunately, our high school attendance of those who were supposed to be there is in the upper 20s, around 30%. And those attendance issues are mirrored in our neighboring districts as well, as I speak to superintendents from those districts. So our present academic model, if we were to survey schools in the four-county area, Bucks County, Montgomery County, Delaware County, and Chester County, I think I can safely say, not that it's a competition. Every school has their own issues and their own hurdles to overcome. Neshaminy is clearly in the top 50% of providing in-person instruction, the top 25%, and we're not going to put them in order, but we might even be in the top 10% as far as providing in-person instruction, to the tune that there aren't many school districts that you can find that have their elementary kids back beyond the hybrid mode. As far as the pandemic, and I am not an expert on it, I just can convey what I hear and read in talking to others. The county numbers continue to come down. They are still above the 100 cases per 100,000, which is the target number to be below 100. Last I looked, we were somewhere in the mid to low 200s, down from somewhere near 500 not that long ago. The occurrences of COVID cases in our schools that require us to do contact tracing is down. We actually went 3 days last week having none. Now that does not mean that there aren't cases. The cases that require us to go back 48 hours, figure out that a child was in school or an adult was in school, and figure out who they were next to and exclude those individuals from school and work. It's that quantity that's down, whether it be because the actual infections are down or because we're making good decisions and not coming to school. So as we say that, what the challenge that continues for us is a day-to-day staff absent issue. Now don't take that as our staff is doing something wrong. You take your normal, everyday, work-related absences, you add to it those who are positive, you add to it those who are quarantined, and you add to it those who are doing the right thing by staying home when they don't feel well. That mass, every morning, we look at all 10 of our schools and decide whether we can operate that school. Just to give you an example, last week we had 2 schools that had teachers to the tune, and this is just the teaching staff, not the support staff. One school was missing 8 teachers with no subs, not counting the teachers that had subs, and another school was close to that number. So to make that work and keep our schools open, we redirect counselors, reading specialists, music teachers. We take people from other schools, our C&I support staff, our coaches, our staff developer, and send them in that direction. And then tomorrow morning, it's a new contest with a different school. So that's what it takes to keep our schools open as far as a staffing issue. We've been successful. And that problem has maintained about steady since before the holidays. We're hoping it begins to drop. So if we continue to see these numbers drop, this could be the beginning of the end of our situation. That being said, I don't know that we know that just yet. And I ask the board's indulgence and the parents' indulgence as we wait another week or so to make sure that this pattern sticks. We've spent the last 3 weeks believing we could pair some type of next step with staff vaccinations. That didn't materialize. It made sense. Right now, it no longer makes sense to be able to pair the plan together because we don't see that school employee vaccinations are going to come as quickly as we thought. So that is where we are. The question is, what is the next step? And I honestly do not have a good plan now that the vaccination piece has not materialized as quickly as we had thought. But I hope to be able to continue to provide that to the community and you within the next week or so.
Thank you, Dr. McGase. That conclude your report?
It does.
Thank you. We'll move on to our first period of public comment. Do we have any sign-ups for public comment?
No signups.
There are no sign-ups for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to approach the podium for comment? Seeing none, we're going to move on. I'd like to make a motion, I'd like to make a master motion for routine matters. 4.01 minutes, 4.02 treasurer's report, 4.03 check register and procurement card purchases, 4.04 investments, and 4.05 exonerations. A motion's been made. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Sullivan. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 8-0. That moves us on to section 5. Mr. Sullivan, would you read 5.01, 5.02, 5.03, and 5.04? You can master motion them if you wish.
Thank you. I'd like to make a master motion to approve item 5.01, certificated staff appointments, 5.02, tenure awards, 5.03, leaves of absence, and 5.04, revised returns from leave.
Thank you. A motion's been made. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Allen. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 8-0. That brings us to section 6. There's 1, 2. Mrs. Hollenbach, would you like to make a master motion for section 6, please?
I'd like to make a master motion for 6.01, retirements, resignations, and assignments, 6.02, leaves of absence, 6.03, revised returns from leave, and 6.04, appointments.
Thank you, Mrs. Hollenbach. A motion's, motion's been made. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cirillo. Any comments, questions, or concerns? I'd like to make note of the fact that in our personnel report for support staff, we have a long-term secretary with 26 years of experience and a bus driver with 28 years of experience that will be leaving us. Neshaminy thanks you for many years of dedicated service and wish you well in your retirement. Any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 8-0. Mrs. Boyle, could you read 7.01, please?
7.01, educational development, out of district placement. And 7.02.
We need to do them separately. Just read the one single motion because they're settlements, so we got to read them separately. I'll call them out, different people. So you just read 7.01.
Okay. 7.01, out of district placement. Whereas in order to meet the educational programming needs of specific students, it may be advantage to services of out-of-district providers. Now therefore be it resolved that the Neshaminy Board of School Directors hereby approves the out-of-placements identified below.
Thank you. There's one student identified on the list. A motion's been made. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Hollenbach. Any
Bowman.
comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 8-0. Mr. Warrington, would you read 7.02, please?
7.02, settlement agreements. Whereas the Neshaminy School District has received a request to enter into a private and confidential agreement with the families of students 787462 and 790000. Now therefore be it resolved that the Neshaminy Board of School Directors hereby approves the language in said agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Marrington. Motion's been made. May I have a second?
Second.
Second, excuse me, by Mrs. Bowman. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes 8-0. Mr. Cirillo, could you read 7.01, please?
I'd like to make a,
I'm sorry,
7.03.
7.03.
caught me off guard there. I'd like to make a motion to approve, motion 7.03, homebound instruction. Whereas the Neshaminy School District desires to provide education services to meet the needs of students with homebound instruction, now therefore be it resolved that the Neshaminy School Board of Directors hereby approves the homeschool instruction below.
Motion, there's one student identified on that motion. Motion's been made. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Sullivan. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 8-0. Mr. Allen, could you read 7.04, please?
Thank you, Mr. Pertano. I'd like to bring a motion to the table, 7.04, the 2021 through 2022 school calendar. Whereas each year, the Board of School Directors must establish an official school calendar for the coming year, and whereas the Board of School Directors reviewed the proposed calendar at the January 12th, 2021 Public Works session, and whereas the proposed calendar was forwarded for comments to each of the employee bargaining groups, now therefore be it resolved that the Neshaminy Board of School Directors hereby adopts the attached school calendar for the 2001 through 2022 school year. Be it further resolved that the Board of School Directors specifically designates November 26th, December 27th, and December 30th, 2021, and April 14th and April 15th, 2022 as the official local school district holidays in accordance with 24 PS Section 15-1502.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. A motion's been made. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Hollenbeck. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 8-0. Mr. Sullivan, could you read 7.05, please?
7.05, temporary suspension of Keystone exam graduation requirements. Whereas the Board Policy 217, graduation was approved and adopted by the district on May 22nd, 2018, in accordance with the Pennsylvania Department of Education and local district requirements that all students achieve a proficient status level on state or local assessments, whereas Board Policy 003 permits the board to suspend a board policy by a majority vote, now therefore be it resolved that in accordance with Board Policy 003, the Neshaminy Board of School Directors hereby approves the temporary suspension of the graduation requirement language noted in Policy 217, that a student achieve a proficient level on state assessments for the graduating class of 2021 at Neshaminy.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. A motion's been made. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cirillo. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 8-0. Mr. Allen, would you read 7.06, please?
Okay, I'd like to bring a motion to table 7.06, Bucks County Technical High School Joint Board. Whereas School Board Policy Number 005 requires that during the month of December, the Neshaminy Board of School Directors appoint board member representatives to the Joint Board Committee of the Bucks County Technical High School in accordance with the terms of the Articles of Agreement between Bucks County Technical School and the participating school districts. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Neshaminy Board of School Directors hereby reappoints John Allen and appoints Cindy Bowman as board member representatives to the Joint Board Committee of the Bucks County Technical High School for 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. A motion's been made. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Hollenbeck. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes 8-0. Mrs. Hollenbeck, 8.01, please.
8.01, Act 1 Index Resolution. Whereas Pennsylvania Board of School Directors have the option to adopt the Act 1 resolution for the upcoming fiscal year in accordance with Section 311 of the Taxpayer Relief Act of Special Session Number 1 of 2006, and whereas the Act 1 index for 2021 through 2022 is 3%, and the district will not raise the rate of any tax by more than the index. Now therefore be it resolved that the Neshaminy Board of School Directors hereby adopts the attached Act 1 Accelerated Budget Opt-out Resolution for the 2021-2022 budget in accordance with Act 1 of 2006.
Thank you, Mrs. Hollenbeck. A motion's been made. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Sullivan. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 8-0. Mr. Sullivan, could you read 8.02, please?
8.02, appointment of deputy tax collector for Lower Southampton Township. Whereas in accordance with House Bill 1590, now Act 164 of 2014, all tax collectors need to appoint a deputy tax collector, which must be approved by the taxing body and the bonding company. Now therefore be it resolved that the Neshaminy Board of School Directors accept the appointment of Mr. David Petersman as deputy tax collector for Lower Southampton Township in accordance with the request of the tax collector. This approval is subject to the receipt of confirmation that the bond secured by the elected tax collector shall be applicable to the deputy tax collector named above.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. A motion's been made. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Bowman. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 8-0. Mr. Allen, would you read 8.03, please?
I would like to bring a motion to the table for approval of 8.03, Tax Collector Compensation Program. Whereas the Neshaminy Board of School Directors is one of 3 taxing entities that utilizes the services of elected tax collectors for the collection of taxes, and whereas the school district is required to establish a compensation plan for elected tax collectors for the 4-year term of office that begins in 2022, now therefore be it resolved that the Neshaminy Board of School Directors hereby approves the attached compensation plan and related regulations.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Motion's been made. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by, is that Mr. Cirillo or Mr. Sullivan?
Mr. Sullivan.
Mr. Sullivan. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes 8-0. Brings us to Section 9. Do any board members wish to bring any other board business in front of the public? Hearing none, we will move on to our second period of public comment. Is there anyone in the audience which wishes to approach the podium for public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to board comment. Are there any board members that wish to offer any board comment this evening?
Not until after Doc McGee goes.
That's very poignant point. Thank you very much, Mrs.
I remember.
Mrs. Bowman. Dr. McGee, please go right ahead.
Thank you, Mrs. Bowman. Mr. Parentano, I have no comment.
Are you kidding me?
Well, for those that don't get that, it's been a running joke, so there's more to it. Does any other board member wish to have any public comment this evening? Mr. Allen?
Yes, I'd like to thank the board for your support in reappointing Ms. Bowman and myself to the Tech School Board. I'll speak for myself on that, is that I thoroughly enjoy my time on the board. Well, nobody enjoys actually being on the board, but the work we do is interesting, and I enjoy having that connection with our school district, and that I get to represent, I'm not really saying this correctly, but I'm trying, that as we sit on the board, a lot of different things come up. To strengthen that partnership and that we see our students succeed there, and I think I'll stop there. But it's something that I thoroughly enjoy, and thank you. And Dr. McGee, your very kind words for the board and the work we do. I do want to, again, as I often do, thank you for the hard work you and your staff are doing through all this. This is certainly, as you said, we didn't necessarily sign up for a pandemic school board. You certainly didn't stand for a pandemic superintendent. And thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Allen.
Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll move on. I want to notify the public.
I raised my hand.
I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Go right ahead, Mrs. Bowman.
I just wanted to also thank everybody for putting John and I back up on the Bucks County Technical High School Joint Board. It's very important, the work we do, working with the Joint Board and the other districts. We have a very unique situation here in the Lower Bucks County Technical High School, in that our kids get that opportunity that's not always afforded to kids in other counties in Pennsylvania. So thank you, and thank you for having the confidence in us. And I look forward to a new year, to 2021 with the Tech Board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bowman.
And thank you, Ms. Bowen, for articulating what I wasn't quite getting to. Thank you.
Tomorrow evening, there will be a meeting of the Business Operations Committee at 6:30 in the district's office boardroom here at Maple Point. On the 28th, there will be a meeting of the Policy Committee at 6:30 p.m. in the district's office boardroom. Our next public work session is February 9th in this Maple Point auditorium at 7 p.m. And the public board meeting will be February 23rd at 7 p.m. also in this auditorium. Seeing no other business before the board, I would like to make a motion to adjourn. May I have a second? Second by Mr. Cirillo. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstentions, motion passes 8-0. Good evening, everyone. Thank you.